Welcome back, Junior College Hard 90, episode 6. Noah Sharp, Zach McKinstry, excited to talk NJCAA baseball. Busy week, but Noah, good to see you again.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. We're changing kind of how we're recording it on my end, not necessarily yours. Hey, I'm okay getting it done earlier in the day than we usually do. You can't see it, but we got a little Three Rivers, Missouri shirt on. I'm not gonna go. Oh wait, it's there. Hey. I said I do it every show. So far, I don't think I've repeated at school, but I'm ready to talk baseball as I always am.
Yeah, I gotta love the new merch, but let's go ahead and jump in to Division I baseball last weekend. Number 1 LSU Eunice continues to be a well-oiled machine. They won both games against Delgado, and the starting pitchers combined for 11 of 14 innings and only one earned run between the Texas State commit Alec Beaversdorf and freshman Xavier Woods. So nothing jumps off the page about their schedule, but they are winning the games they're supposed to. Where do you see this year's first D1 team compared to the D2 national champs of years past?
So when looking at the years past, they remind me not as much as last year's team, even though they have guys from that team. It's more the 21 team. They just knew how to do it. They were 51-7. They only won 18 games in a row, and they're I think 24 right now. So that's it. I mean, right now their roster has 5 guys hitting north of 350, and when you look at their schedule coming up, I don't see them really losing a game anytime you play Delgado like that, it's going to be tough. But when it comes to their schedule, I mean, they already handled Delgado really well. They play them the last week of the regular season, but I could see them running the table and then not really facing a real loss, anything can happen, but I could see them running the table and potentially having a 2009 Howard-esque season. Like, it is at all possible. I know their regional and district is where things get tough, and being in Grand Junction for the first time. But I mean, LSU Eunice, they know how to win. They've always known how to win. That's how they coach. That's how they play. They know what to do. So if it got to that point, I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, Coach Willis has them cooking right now, number 1 in the country in the NJCAA polls. Elsewhere in D1 last week, we said State College of Florida and number 6 Indian River State was going to be a series to watch, and it was. The Manatees took 2 of 3 games and shut them out in games 1 and 2. Freshman Lachlan Radloff with a complete game shutout on Saturday. That's his 3rd of the season, and we've talked all season long about how dangerous the Panhandle is, but the Citrus Conference deserves some love too. So how do you see that side of Florida shaping out so far this year?
Chaos. I mean, what's the meme? If you've seen community colleges, but if you've seen Community, the scene where Troy walks in with a pizza and just the whole apartment's on fire, that's the state of Florida. And not a bad way. It's just any week someone can get it. Any week it's going to be tough. I know this weekend Florida Southwestern and State College of Florida are actually playing. I should have a preview of that one, I think, up tomorrow, hopefully, if stuff pans out. But I know both, though, like, that game's going to be chippy. I know Miami-Dade's had huge offenses. They're really more quiet when it comes to social media stuff, but they're always a good team. They went to Grand Junction 2-3 years ago. But you never know what you're going to get in Florida, whether it's D2, whether it's the Panhandle, whether it's the Citrus. It's good from top to bottom. And like I said, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, Florida slowly, in my opinion, even though it might have already been it, the biases have gone away. And Florida is just top to bottom, one of the best.
Yeah, and then the last thing I had for D1, number 5 Shelton State split their 4 games last week against Wallace State Hanceville, dropping them 4 spots in the NJCAA poll. So the Bucks had won 9 of 10 heading into that series, but Coastal Alabama South now leads the Alabama CC Conference. So their 4-game set coming up this week, which we'll preview in a little bit, will be huge for that conference. Who are some players the Bucks will turn to down the stretch?
I mean, Pierce Dutton's really been that guy for them all year. I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me. That was one. I got kind of rushed, and hey, Pierce Dutton, that's the name I know. But, I mean, they've been there to Grand Junction multiple years. I think they've gone back-to-back. I think last year they missed it. But in Coastal Alabama, South really has been, South, yep, the D1 South, D2's North. Those are 2 other schools that always get mixed up. I think it's all 1A D2. It's cool dudes, but just they get mixed up. But it's going to be interesting. With Alabama splitting last year to really D1 and D2, it really shook up where the power lies. Shelton State still stayed D1. Wallace Dauphin obviously dropped to D2. Had a great year last year. Has kind of had a rough year this year. But, I mean, Shelton, I've been top 5 for y'all. I think I've had them up there for me once or twice. But they just know how to win down the stretch lately. And so I could see them running away with it. I could also see it being a year where chaos ensues. Like I believe it was in 2011 where Central Alabama went and won their national title. So no one saw that coming. I mean, that was my freshman year in college, and I remember like, who the heck is Central Alabama? But, you know, anything can happen in junior college baseball, especially in the postseason. And we're getting to that point of the season, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, well, elsewhere in Alabama in Division II, we'll start again with Gaines Harrell. We told you last week one of the stars of Enterprise State's team got hit in a head-on car accident and ended up in the hospital with very serious injuries. Well, his GoFundMe is now $2,000 from their $20,000 goal, so continue to give if you can. And Enterprise State is doing a shrimp dinner fundraiser next Saturday with all proceeds going to his family. So stay tuned with @Coach B Frick and @Weevil Athletics for more info on that as we move closer. But the big news out of D2 last week is number 16 Pima up 7 spots in the NJCAA poll after 9 straight wins and 2 monster wins over South Mountain, including the game of the weekend on Saturday. The Aztecs trailed 7-2 in the 5th and scored 6 straight unanswered to win 8-7 over the then number 3 squad. So freshman Leon Saraceres was 5 for 8 with a triple, a double, and 7 runs scored. And sophomore Colin Sr. added 5 more hits and 6 ribbies. So is this the year that Pima claims that West District title?
For Pima, I mean, last year they won Region 1. They won Region 1, Division 1, and then they went down to Division 2. So it's not out of the realm that they could do it. Now, with how I had Pima number 1 for my poll, they were my number 1 team in the country to start the season. I really liked what they had coming back. They're dropping down. Same with Wallace Dauphin last year. They're dropping down. You're returning all those guys. So it made a lot of sense. The thing with them is, you still have to play all the Division 1 schools, which that's going to cause stuff, but they've handled it this year. I mean, I don't think they have more than 10 losses, but for them, I see them first, they're in the driver's seat in Region 1. When it comes to the West District, that's where things are going to get crazy. I didn't see Oklahoma being as deep as it ends up being. I mean, we've talked about Oklahoma a lot the last couple of weeks, but with how deep Oklahoma is, whichever team, whether it's South Mountain, whether it's Pima, whether it's NOC Tonk, whether it's NOC Enid, whether it's Murray State or Western Oklahoma State, like whichever 2 teams come out of those 2 regions and end up playing for that West District title, it's going to be appointment TV. It's going to be a crazy series wherever it ends up being. And it's going to be probably, I'd hate to say it, but I could see the odds-on favorite outside of Mississippi coming from whoever ends up coming out of the West.
Yeah, it's going to be a long road ahead of them, but Pima out to a pretty good start this year. Moving to Iowa, number 4 Southeastern has won 14 in a row. They beat Kirkwood twice, and they swept Iowa Lakes, tallying 45 runs in 3 games against the Lakers. The 2023 national runner-up is getting hot at the right time. So what are some names that we need to look out for the Blackhawks?
So the Blackhawks are a team that historically they know how to pitch. I mean, right now, the big guy for Southeastern and NAIA school was the guy, I had him as I think he was my pitcher of the year as a closer. Then the next year was my preseason pitcher of the year as a closer. I think he had like 12 saves and like 15 innings, but they know how to pitch there. That's what I'm getting at. They know how to pitch. This year, they seem to have that mix of hitting and pitching. They've been to the national tournament. They were in that large bid last year, I'm pretty sure. And they fell just short 2 years ago in a national title. But you're going to get it on the mound, and now you're going to get it from the bats. So, and with that huge matchup, I think we're going to talk about that later with Iowa Western. Really, is Southeastern now putting themselves as that number 1 team in Iowa, regardless of division, or that, and is Iowa Western, with how bad they started or how slow they started, can they, hey, they've been kicking lately. Now this is the first real test of, hey, we've got everything finally figured out after a really, really tough start to the season. So are we back to what we should be? You know, this weekend for both teams, I think it's going to either show, is Southeastern legit and is Iowa Western back?
Yeah, we'll learn a lot about both sides, but Iowa getting really competitive down the stretch here, and that's really exciting. The other thing I wanted to ask you, how about number 13 Madison? The Wolfpack played 8 games in 6 days last week, and they won 7 of those games, 2 of them on the road against number 7 Kankakee. Sometimes you get caught in looking at the record and you don't realize that the schedules are an absolute grind. So how impressive was their last 7 days?
So 7 games in 8 days, or 8 games in 6 days, whatever it was, 8 games in 6 days, just reread it, is impressive at any level. Now, who they did it against is even more impressive. I know Madison and Kankakee was one of those series that I had kind of penciled in last week for me that, hey, I want to do a preview. This is, I think, a big matchup. It ended up not doing it because both coaches didn't know if they were going to play until like really, really late, right before the game started, just because of rain that really affected everywhere. But I mean, Madison's been one of those top teams year in, year out. Kankakee is finally back on. I mean, Kankakee too, I think they played 6 or 7 games. They had that. I mean, that's just how it gets going in the Midwest. You don't play a lot early, and then you're playing every single day for like 3 weeks in a row. Madison is right there in the driver's seat there. Kankakee, nothing to worry about for them. But both of them, I believe, have big weeks this week. I don't remember who, but I know there's a big series up there that we're going to talk about later, though.
Yeah, good on the Wolfpack, getting some momentum right now as we move to Division III. The Dallas chaos continues. Unranked Dallas College Brookhaven took this series over number 2 Dallas Eastfield, dealing the Harvester Bees their first 2 conference losses. Bradley Bodecker earned DAC Player of the Week, 6 hits and 4 doubles in the 2 wins, and he had a 9-game hit streak until that series came to a close on Sunday. Meanwhile, SUNY Niagara is out to a perfect 28-0 start, and the Thunderwolves jump Eastfield for the number 2 spot in the D3 standings, and Towson commit Nigel Sebastianelli is only hitting .507 through 24 games played. I know you're big on SUNY Niagara, but what's your update on the top of the D3 leaderboard?
I mean, anytime you can win 20-plus games in a row, that really says something. Now, are some of the teams like, that's just how it's going to be. You travel for spring break. A lot of these teams play spring break tournaments in the Carolinas, in Florida. So the schedule really doesn't say what it is. I know I had them preseason number 1 for me. I knew what they had coming back, loading and pitching, loading and hitting. And then every single coach I've seen who talked to out there is like, this might be one of the best teams, not only in Division III, but in the country, because it's just what they have there. I believe they have like 7, 8, or 9 Division I commits, and it's not even just in the Northeast where they're committed. They're kind of like all over. So I could see Niagara. I know they have a big week against Erie. Erie's kind of down this week or this year, but always a tough conference matchup there. So that's a really kind of big test for them this week.
Yeah, and then obviously that Dallas news. Dallas continues to be crazy, but Eastfield trying to get back on track after dropping that series. The other big news in D3, Northampton loses a tight battle to Brookdale, and the next day they have 21 hung on them against RCSJ Cumberland, who would go on to sweep the Spartans, and they drop 8 spots to number 12 in the NJCAA poll. So were you surprised at those performances?
Region 19, for those that don't know, I love Region 19. I love the Northeast. It's for being a Texan, Division III Northeast baseball is like my favorite thing, and it's awesome. Even though I've never lived there, my family's from there, but I've never been. This could happen in any day. You got to be able to nut up and shut up, I guess, but also like you got to be ready at any single day. It could happen to, Erie could go and drop 30 on Niagara this weekend. And would it be a surprise? Yes, but if you know the talent that's there, it's not. So it's the more you know, it's like, it's not out of the ordinary for something like that to happen. Because again, like how those Midwest schools, Kankakee, Madison, they play a bunch of games in a row. I think Niagara last week played 6 games in like 7 days. So less, but still, like you're playing a lot of games. You're getting them going. Like so for a game like that to happen, and I know Cumberland's pitcher, held them 6 scoreless. I think he had like 12 Ks or something. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name. I can see it, but I'm not going to try to pronounce it. But this is getting to the time of the year where all those schools are starting to finally play each other, where either the top dogs are going to rise and the records are going to stay the same, or you're going to see kind of like how Dallas did this weekend, where you're just beating up on each other, like how Mississippi, you always end up beating up on each other, but it ends up helping you in the long run. But I don't know. Again, like I've said, I think at 3-4 times this show, it's the best time of year because now all these games really do mean something. And yeah, fun. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, the Spartans have some work to do, but plenty of big matchups coming up this weekend that we are previewing here in a moment. So that wraps up all of last week. Stay with us. Quick break. On the other side, we dive into the D1, D2, and D3 matchups coming up this weekend that you need to tune into. Stay with us on JUCO Hard 90.
For the last 87 years, the NJCAA has provided academic and athletic opportunities to thousands of student athletes. However, several rules make it more challenging for two-year college transfers. Recently, 16 national coaches associations, led by the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association, sent a request for change to NCAA leadership to make the rules the same for all transfers. We commend their leadership and stand together in support of same game, same rules.
Good morning.
Why so serious? Great shot.
Car was 250. He got it.
Greenside bunker, land short.
Trust your line. There's plenty of green.
Breaks towards the water.
Lots of coaching today, huh? We're one up.
When you strive to be the best, you need the right insights. Zurich has insurance solutions and risk strategies to help prepare your business for tomorrow.
We're back. Junior College Hard 90. Time to tune in to all of the matchups coming up this weekend and into early next week, starting with D1 and with Florida. How about number 7 Florida Southwestern riding a 7-game win streak, 3 games against number 18 College of Central Florida coming up. That's a really big series down there in the Sunshine State.
That's one. I think Florida Southwestern's second in conference. Central Florida's in third. I think they're separated by maybe a game. I've talked to Marty over there, haven't heard back from, I'm forgetting his name, and I just posted something about him getting his 100th win, but haven't heard quite back from them yet. But I know Central Florida's looking to get to that top spot. Since they won that national title a few years ago, they've kind of become that one of those premier teams in the Citrus. So that one's going to be one that, I mean, sun's going to be shining. It's going to be in the Citrus State. So, like, good baseball. If you're in the Florida area, go make it to that one.
Yeah, a lot of talent that will be playing at the next level here shortly in that ball game as well. So elsewhere in D1, number 2 Blinn gets another test. They take on receiving votes San Jacinto. And then a matchup we talked about earlier, number 9 Shelton State has 4 games against Coastal Alabama South with only 4 series to go and a lot to determine in that conference as well. So those 2 games, what strikes you?
So the Blinn and San Jac series. So this is one, and it's not even just this series. It's what's happening in Region 14 this week. So right now, Blinn's in 1 in conference, San Jac's 2. So if San Jac can, I think if they sweep, then they're tied at first. If they 2 or 3, so they're battling for that top seed, right? There's an interesting one at the bottom half, the 4th and 5th place. So Alvin versus Wharton, they play this weekend. I believe it's the same deal. If Wharton is to sweep them, they jump into 4th or tied for 4th, and Alvin, tied for 4th. So and Wharton, I really like beginning of the year. They've had some follies, I guess you could say, with just how things have fallen this year. I didn't see Alvin jumping out to as hot of a start as they did, but this is, again, one of those series where Blinn San Jac, I think Blinn took it 2-1. Wharton, I think, got swept by Alvin earlier in the year. So both of those are going to really tell the tale of how Region 14 South is going to shape up with only like 2 or 3 series really left in conference play.
On to D2, number 4 Southeastern at home against D1 Iowa Western. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but man, is this a big series for both sides. Southeastern trying to keep their momentum going, and Iowa Western trying to prove that they are the team that was so good and made it to Grand Junction last year.
Yeah, if you know anything about Iowa, it's really been these 2 teams. Des Moines had years up and they've had years down. Iowa Central's had years up, had years down. Nyack's had their years, but really probably the past 5 years, it's been these 2 teams at the top of Iowa as a whole. And I think they finally split how the conference is done, where D1 just has their conference schedule, D2 has theirs. Do they still all play each other? Yes, but those conference games don't affect your conference standings like how it does in Arizona. But yeah, it's going to be a big one. I know I've talked to Southeastern already. I haven't heard back from Ryan over there at Iowa Western, but that's one I know they're both looking forward to. You could see probably 7-8 arms all come out throwing lower to mid 90s and guys hitting balls 400 feet. I'd probably say it's going to be a little bit lower scoring unless the wind wants to show up like it did this past week. But yeah, that's one, again, like we said earlier, is Southeastern the new top dog in Iowa, and is Iowa Western back from kind of clawed their ways back from the underdog that they dug themselves into at the beginning of the year.
Well, yeah, speaking of the wind, let's move to Michigan. How about receiving votes Kellogg taking on number 20 Lansing for a couple of games this weekend?
Yeah, that's another one that I'm actually previewing this week. Should be out again, hopefully tomorrow. But that's one, both are tied. I think they're both 7-2 in conference. Both teams have had runs to Grand Junction recently, or not Grand Junction, to Enid. Sorry, flip the switch. But Lansing, I think a couple years ago, they had like a while. They like had won 30 something in a row. They had like 6 losses, ended up losing in the regional. I think actually to Kellogg, if I'm remembering right. But this is a Midwest matchup of two Titans that is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
On to Division III, a couple of games that you have on upset watch. Number 15 Middlesex against a red-hot RCSJ Cumberland squad. Nassau takes on number 7 Suffolk, and then Erie and SUNY Niagara. 4 games this weekend on Thursday and on Saturday.
Yeah, those are all great. I think Niagara, like I said earlier, this could be a real big test for them. Erie's kind of struggled this year, but I mean, if Niagara is what a lot of people think Niagara is, this should be no problem. Cumberland has been really hot. They have 2 really good freshman pitchers that have really been killing it. Nassau, I think I've had them like back ends of my rankings, 20s, and Suffolk has been killing it. One that really intrigues me this week, though, is Herkimer, who won the national title, I believe, in 21, and then Cayuga, 2 New York schools that most people probably have heard of Herkimer with their success recently, but Cayuga, they bumped into my top 10. They've won, I think they took a series from Northampton earlier in the year. They took a couple games here or there from teams that really, on paper you shouldn't have, but then when you start diving in, you really see, oh, well, okay, they are a little bit better than what I thought. But that one's going to be one for both of them. I believe it's a Saturday-Sunday series, or it's a Friday-Saturday. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's another one. I mean, again, the Northeast junior college landscape is legit.
Yeah, starting to defrost out of that winter and getting into some good baseball. So that wraps up the upcoming segment. Coming up, we've got a minute and a half of Noah Sharp talking baseball. The Hard 90 coming up after this quick break. Stay with us here on the NJCAA YouTube.
What makes a life a good one? Is it our adventures? Or the friends we find along the way? Is it the challenges we conquer together? Maybe it's the people's lives we touch every single day. So, what makes a life a good one? You'll have to figure that one out for yourself.
As the second largest intercollegiate athletic association in the country, the NJCAA serves not only a pivotal role in college athletics, but in higher education. The NJCAA Foundation aims to move the association forward through resources, grant programs, and other special initiatives. Your gift to the NJCAA Foundation will make a difference and create opportunities.
We're back, final segment here on Junior College Hard 90, talking NJCAA baseball. Noah Sharp, he's got 90 seconds to rant about a bunch of stories in the news in NJCAA baseball. Noah, your 90 seconds starts now.
So, leading the way, you have Cole Wooters. I believe that's how you say it, from a Cook, in a wild game. I think it had 46 runs, 13 errors, like 70-something hits. But he ended up hitting for the cycle in the game, and not just your normal cycle. He ended up going 6 for 6 with 2 homers, a triple, 2 doubles, while driving in 8. I mean, doing the math, it's a 3.8 OPS in a game, which is wild. A guy on the other side of that field also hit for the cycle in the same game. Didn't write his down, but he was like 4 for 6. With Golden Spikes coming out, kind of a crazy little tidbit of fun information junior college wise. 2 of the guys actually were coached by the same coach, but we're at 2 different schools in 2 different completely parts of the country. Ryan Cowgill was the coach at Yavapai when Rylan Zabowski was there. He ended up going to Miami of Ohio. Now he's at Georgia as a grad transfer. But then when he went to Iowa Western, had Marcus Phillips, who was recruited by old head coach Mark Rardin, who now is the head coach of Western Kentucky, who has another junior college Golden Spikes award watch guy in Ryan Weidman. Just kind of a crazy, like, there's 5 guys in total, and 3 of them like share this weird triangle of coaches. But then rounding it out, There's 3 really big coaching milestones this past weekend. Al Corbin over at Polk State becomes the all-time winningest coach in Polk State history. I believe it's across every single sport. He's the first one to ever hit 500 wins. Brookdale's head coach Johnny Johnson becomes the all-time winningest coach, passing Coach McLaughlin with 858 wins in program history. And then Southern Nevada's coach Nick Garitano in a 9-3 win over Arizona Western hits win 900, which, I mean, guys are paying it back to their schools, paying it back in a big way. I mean, obviously this is for the players, but it is as much for the players as it is for the coaches, as I've been told and have seen lately. So yeah, I definitely think I went over that time. There's no doubt in my mind that I went over that time.
All good. A lot to talk about. That wraps up the episode, though. Plenty of great stories in NJCAA baseball. Yeah, stay tuned to that Golden Spikes watch list. Pretty cool to have that many junior college ties to it in the college baseball game. So we're back again next week. Episode 7 will be filmed while we're at our NJCAA convention in Denton, Texas. So if you're around the area interested in coming, that one starts on next Sunday. So be sure to tune in to everything going on with that. But that's all we got for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Zach McKinstry. That's Noah Sharp. We'll catch you next Thursday.